Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TSL3. This is the third and fourth place finisher matchup. Now, the winner of this matchup will be awarded not only $3,000, but also an auto berth and a seed into the TSL4 in the future. And game one did go to Empire.Kas in the first matchup. Now we're moving on to Xel'Naga Caverns, where we have Empire.Kas, our blue Terran, spawning in the southwest, and he is going up against our red Protoss. It is mouz.HasuObs. What will he do this time that'll be different from the last game? Well, one thing I do want to say, Husky, is that I wonder if Kas is still going to have the same drop potential on Xel'Naga that he had on Tal'Darim Altar. And you know, really the only reason I say that is even though there's a lot of different areas to attack in Xel'Naga, there's a lot of airspace, if you will, in Tal'Darim Altar. And so that makes the Terran drops that much more effective. So, you know, will he have to go for a more head-on approach? Is he going to stick to the bio? I guess those are questions that we'll have answered very, very soon.
As far as two-player maps go, I think we've seen drops be very effective. I mean, drops weren't very effective on maps like Steps of War and some of these smaller two-player maps. But on this one, your base is fairly large for a two-player map, and you can fly behind the minerals if your opponent doesn't spot it right away. So there is a nice little landing zone there to drop all your Marines and Marauders on kind of that right side. But I think since Kaz saw some success with his early aggression against his opponent, maybe he will try and punish HasuObs with those patch changes we are talking about. Now, if Hasu does it, what I've seen in a lot of PvTs after the patch is that you have to get out a couple of Stalkers earlier than you used to. And also getting out a sentry is slightly easier as well. So especially on this map, which not as effective on Tal'Darim Altar simply because that choke is much wider than we will see on this map. But expect to see HasuObs get out a couple of Stalkers. That's what I've seen in a lot of PvTs recently. And then also getting out a sentry to hold off that early aggression before his Cybernetics core is done. That's what I've seen in previous games, and we'll see if HasuObs decides to do the same.
And we're going to have Kas now going for a reactor on his barracks there. And I would expect to see that too, as we don't see anything coming out of the gateway right now for HasuObs. Cybernetics core is about halfway done. Chrono boosting out some probes right now. Try to get a little bit further ahead in that worker count right now. Sitting about 4 workers ahead as the orbital just finishes up. And we have our first mule going down. A second barracks is going to be on the way from Kas. So opening up very similar to how he did in the last game. But the big difference is that I believe he went Tech Lab first to get that early concussive shells, unless that's what he's going to get here on his second racks. But I believe he had that pretty early in game number 1.
And something we could see from Kaz here is since he's getting 2 racks, could be going for 2 racks pressure. Looking at the add-on, yes, it is going to be a Tech Lab just now getting dropped by Empire.Kas, and we'll see if he's going to go for that Marauder slow or if he's going to do a more longer game style of getting out that stim pack. And I mean, the build with this 2 racks opening, it does allow Kaz to put on a little bit of pressure. The pressure will be slightly delayed because of the add-on decisions that he made, but it will also allow him to secure his expansion much more easily if he doesn't completely blow any sort of attack that he decides to send out towards HasuObs. Right now you can see HasuObs is indeed getting out a couple of Stalkers here. He already has 1 completed, 2 more on the way, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get out a sentry, especially if he's able to try and catch wind of what's going on, in that if his opponent decides to continue making units out of these barracks, which we do see Marauder slow on the way, we do see additional Marines being created non-stop, and the timing of Kaz, he is not queuing up any units. Once those Marines were done, the same second he was already making more Marines, just using his resources to the fullest of his potential, which tells me that he definitely is going to put on pressure here within the next 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, and you know what? That might be just enough time for HasuObs. Right now, keeping an eye, and he is moving out. Well, so we'll see what he's going to do here, but note that now we have some sentries coming out, possibly just waiting for the gas. He does have a second one down now, so HasuObs will have a couple sentries before this army does make it to the top. And obviously, this map versus the last map, Tal'Darim Altar, 1 force field ramp makes a huge difference for the Protoss. So with these SCVs moving forward, we've got, I would say, about, what, 8 Marines and 2 Marauders joining this bunch as well. So we'll see what he decides to do with this little force.
One thing I really like what HasuObs was doing is he didn't panic and chrono boost out those sentries. He knew the timing so well in his head, and there's got to be that force field splitting that army into about a third. These poor Marines got the short end of the deal. Kaz is going to try and micro them back just so he can attack that pylon right there, but HasuObs is definitely keeping his composure in this game. He didn't waste a single chrono boost on getting out those sentries. He knew the timing, which that shows you just the level of play. Now keep in mind, during this entire thing, Kaz is expanding right now. He does have his command center being built inside of his main base, and now it does look like Kaz got to be throwing down 2 bunkers here, which is, you got to remember, once he decides to salvage these, he won't get as much money back. A 3rd bunker going down, which this is really surprising to me, Weed, simply because bunkers aren't as good as far as getting your resources back, but this will allow him to safely expand himself.
Well, this is a great time to go in and move out for the attack before these bunkers finish. One of them almost done, but the SCV is killed before it can complete the construction of it. All of the zealots are gone. We have a few more warping in. One of the barracks does finish. Second SCV tries to hook up on the second one, and he will manage to take one out. So he's going to have to be careful assaulting this. It looks like the robotics facility just now finishing up. Of course, with an Immortal will make it that much easier, but it looks like he's going to go in for the attack anyway. Might lose a second zealot there, and he does. So going through quite a few minerals there, but you can see he's floating about 400 right now. We'll go ahead and skip the observer, go straight for the Immortal so he can break this. One thing to note is that Kaz is not really bringing his reinforcements back up there, so he's kind of being okay with this. In fact, he's going to send a few more back down and might just go ahead and let these guys die, or at least just continue this light contain momentarily.
There was a tricky little thing HasuObs was trying to do in the bottom center of the map. You can see that probe kind of skirting away. He set up a pylon there, almost immediately spotted by Kaz, as he's been very active with his units, making sure he doesn't lose to some sort of counterattack. Here comes the trying to break out of this contain right now, and for some reason Kaz has left a majority of his units in these bunkers, which will easily get hacked down. So surprisingly, Kaz, I think, overstaying his welcome there. Not that he was very welcome at HasuObs' house, but definitely left a few too many units there, so that is going to favor the Protoss player after cleaning that out. But you gotta remember, Empire.Kas was able to expand during this, and he still has his command center inside of his main base though. However, he has not been making SCVs this entire time. Even after all of that, he is still behind 4 SCVs, so HasuObs dealing with this very well, still keeping a cool composure in these battles. This he chrono boosted out 1 Immortal, and then right when that was done, just busted out there as it does that additional damage versus those bunkers. So again, if we look at the units lost tab, it may be slightly misleading, but thankfully for our Protoss player, the command center hasn't landed until right about now.
So taking a look inside HasuObs space, we do have another gateway going down with the robotics bay. We have a Reaper who's made his way into the main mineral line. He completely sneaked past everything, but the surround by the probes to take him out, and that Reaper could have actually done a ton of damage before those stalkers got there. However, it was thwarted. So we have another force moving forward. Now, I'm still surprised that Kaz didn't actually just go ahead and leave, get rid of that contain. He is going to load up 2 medevacs, possibly going for a drop. He's dropped his orbital command now, putting a bunker in the front of that. But I feel like there is this time where he's a little bit vulnerable. Now, the Protoss does see these medevacs going through with this observer, but they will manage to get it in there with a few stalkers ready to rock and roll. Suddenly, Kaz's drops are in danger, and he will not even try. He won't... He is not going to sacrifice all those units and those medevacs. Very, very wise. But one thing is that the HasuObs army really continuing to grow here. Just a little, more and more as we see the bio army pretty light here for Kaz.
This is not similar to the game we saw last time. I think both these players are going to be on pretty even footing here now. HasuObs did a slight misclick there, wasn't able to even attack the dropship there. It would have been a huge deal if he could snipe one, but that does mean that both players still in a comfortable position here. I mean, if you look at the worker counts, they are similar for both players, 38 to 41, which is always a huge deal. Although HasuObs once again seemingly rushing towards that Colossus tech. He seems to be very comfortable with this. Even after all the patch changes and all that, he still wants to keep out his Colossus. Has one more on the way, and there is going to be a slight skirmish over here on the left side. Force field going to deny that, only killing 1 Marine. Not really worth it unless you are that Marine who just died, but he did waste a little bit of energy on those sentries, although they are quickly recharging, as you can see, since they've been around since the beginning of the game. They are almost full. Now, I like this by Empire.Kas landing this factory here just to delay this expansion. The reason he landed that was because he saw those rocks being destroyed, so he's like, well, he probably wants to take this right now, and we could see an engagement here on the left side, but are we going to know? Both players back out. Yeah,
and actually HasuObs is being very, very cautious about when to go in for this attack. thought maybe Kas might wait for him to attack and go in and get a little bit better angle, but that is not going to happen, so he is just going to retreat from there. He delays that expansion a little bit. Meanwhile, you can see that the command center for Kas has gone down as well. Now, the Forge is just now going down for HasuObs, something that even in the last game decided to go for that Forge much later. Armory is going down along with a few more barracks here for Kas. So I do think with the extended thermal lance finishing and him getting started on his upgrades before the Terran, that is going to put him in a much better position than he was in the last game.
And it's very important. It shows you how much setting up that contain really hurt him as the game continues. At this point in the last game, he already had that +2 attack and was nearing getting his +3 as well for our Terran player. And, I mean, you're mentioning he hasn't even started yet. We're almost at the point where he was very comfortably in the lead last game. So he is not as comfortable in this game at all. He is going to be taking his high-yield expansion right now, just kind of floating that command center over there. And the SCV is transferring there right on cue, right on time there. So his expansion timing is going to not only be ahead, but, I mean, he just, how many workers does he have right now? He also has almost 10 more workers than his opponent. So, I mean, not too bad of a shape right now if you are Kas. Just his upgrades may put him a little bit out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, and he is a little bit more ahead on the supply of just by about 10. As far as the workers go, though, that is pretty much the disparity that we've got between these two players. So the army's just about even right now. We are going to see ship weapons level 1 getting an upgrade. It does look like he'll go for a lot more Vikings this time around. So assuming that if HasuObs is going to have that same number of Colossus that he had in the last game, that those Vikings will play a much bigger role than they did last time with their numbers. Now, +1 weapons going out on the Protoss right now, and with this third here, we are going to get, with the third from Kas, we are going to get a planetary fortress here. And this, to me, Husky, is always a scary spot for your opponent when you are Terran and you've got this planetary and you've got control of this area. It really kind of limits what a player can attack into, and they have to be very careful about not just taking fluffy damage to try to take out this expansion. So, however, with the lack of siege tanks, it kind of changes it a little bit because you have more surface area that you can attack on.
On this map, Terran players almost always take the high yield first, and that is exactly why, just with the planetary fortress there, it kind of locks down one lane. You can see right now, Kas is going to be moving out right now, and it's interesting to me that he opted to get so many Vikings. This could really work against him because there's only one robotics right now, and there's just not that many Colossus on the field. Looking at the units tab, there is 5, but for the amount of Vikings you have, might be a slight overkill. There is going to be an attack over here on the left side, trying to engage this directly. The positioning of our Terran player pretty good. The force field is not doing that much damage. Trying to focus down the Vikings here, though, although it's kind of hard to tell if the Vikings are really paying for themselves because they're getting sniped quickly, and the Colossus are just sitting back here roasting away. Although with some micro from Kas, he is running directly into this army, and this is a surprisingly close battle, but every single Viking has been taken out, which, considering he invested so heavily and quickly into those, that is not a good situation to be in. It does look like a nice blink there. It's able to snipe one of the medevacs. The remainder will get away. He actually used the Colossus to spot that high ground so he could blink up there. So nice play. It's still chasing it with these Colossus. Colossus have never looked so terrifying to an air unit. Don't know if the medevacs are going to get taken out, though. So really, HasuObs, he seems quite upset about last game and wants to get revenge.
Yeah, a little bit of revenge seems to be on the order tonight for HasuObs. After that battle, you know, I agree with you. I thought he was going to end that battle with more Vikings left over, but really HasuObs putting down that nice layer of force field that buffered the damage away from the Stalkers and allowed them to just go ahead and attack those Vikings. So the numbers depleted very, very quickly, and as a result, not only was he left over with a couple Colossus, but he still had a pretty decent ground army. Right now, you just look at the bio army, a lot of Marauders, a few Marines out, a couple of medevacs, and we just had the first upgrade finish for the Terran. He got +1 weapons, while we have level 2 ground weapons for the Protoss on the way.
One thing I like that HasuObs is doing is warping in these High Templar way before getting stormed, just making sure he does have enough energy for that. A slight skirmish over here on the left side. Stim used on all those Marauders to try and take out a couple of those stalkers, and so he's going to back out here right now. But during all of that, Kaz was able to grab his 4th base, and again, I mean, these games have been so action-packed, especially the first game. Starting to see it here a little in the second game. It's hard to realize we're already 20 minutes into the second game, so both of these players haven't figured out how to quickly defeat their opponent yet, and it is moving again into the late game, and we will see who is the most comfortable in late game. HasuObs really likes a high-tech style of play in the late game. He only has +2 attack here, but does have +1 armor on the way as well. But again, he's going for Mass Colossus, Mass High Templar, really opting to go for high-tech units, and if he can storm those Vikings when they're in a nice big ball, that could turn the tide extremely quickly.
Yeah, and how many High Templar does he have right now? Just kind of looking. Let's see. Oh, he's got 8. Yeah, 8. So that's going to be really devastating. Preemptive force fields going down. Going to keep the army from taking out those stalkers as they try to target the Vikings yet again. And it looks like he might try to go for a backline attack here on this expansion. Really rough position to be in here for the Protoss. He's losing a lot of workers, loses that assimilator as well. And this is, to me, just a great decision. We'll lose a medevac there, not so hot. But so far, he's done a ton of damage, forcing this Protoss army to really move around, not giving them a whole lot to work with. He's going to try to snipe Colossus there. As you can see, 2 of them looking pretty sickly there. And he's going to move in once again with the Vikings. Meanwhile, he's going to move into the natural Husky and begin to do a lot of damage as the army of the HasuObs closes in.
Yeah, and he's landing those Vikings in that mineral line on the left side as well. So once again, the multitasking being absolutely out of control as Kaz is going to be running inside the main base. I think that is almost all Marauders, which can easily focus down important tech structures if he gets himself in a good position. Decides to stop and engage, but gets stormed in the face, and the attack on the left side has been held off once again. Looks like he will be able to clean this up. Don't know if these medevacs are going to escape. One medevac full of Marauders gets sniped quite easily there, and it does look like HasuObs taking much less damage than we saw in the last game, but just taking a gander at the workers killed tab, it seems similar to last game. 49 workers killed by our Terran player, only 9 killed by HasuObs, and StarCraft is a game of macro, especially when it goes into the extreme late game like this, so HasuObs not going to be feeling comfortable about that. He is down 44 probes to 62 SCBs, and looking at the units lost tab, Terran player definitely the loser in that battle, but I mean, really the indirect damage he did is really what counts here. I mean, delaying mining, killing those workers, and even though he lost his army, well, when you're up bases and up mining, you can just replace that army much more quickly.
Yeah, looking at how he's replacing it too, actually HasuObs, a lot more zealots in this army now to try to combat this mass ball of Marauders. And the one thing that Kaz has now added to his army that was lacking before is going to be the Ghosts. And, you know, he's still a little behind on the upgrades. He's at +2 weapons right now, while the Protoss is sitting at 1-2 with at least a nick there on the armor. But he's going to go ahead and go with +3 Terran infantry weapon level 3. That didn't make much sense, but basically +3 weapons for the Terran, and that's going to help equalize things as well. So some big EMPs here could help significantly. He's trying to work his way in. He gets a second one that does a lot of shield damage, but not quite energy damage.
And HasuObs being a little sneaky over here on the bottom right side. Does have some pylons set up there. Look at the placement of that furthest south pylon. That is really good placement. You can just warp in units on the low ground and immediately begin harassing those units from the high ground. The SCVs, that is. But there is going to be a battle over here. One storm going to force this army back. HasuObs Kaz decides to run back into that storm to snipe out that High Templar. And it is 198 supply right now to 168. So once again, favoring the Terran in supply, but a slight upgrade advantage still for the Protoss. But pretty soon, he's going to be going against a +3 attack, and once again getting cloaked for those Ghosts.
Yeah, and he's going to move around to the back line of this yet again. I love it. He's just going to start sniping stuff. Another big EMP here on the units on the ground, and he'll start to work on those probes once again. Now, it may not seem like he's doing a ton of probe damage, but he is getting them away from mining. Oh, and all the Ghosts are in the back. They were completely separated from the army, so 2 free Ghosts donated over to HasuObs. Meanwhile, we do have another base over here, very close, being put up by HasuObs, but he continues to work on this area, and now we got the Protoss army moving forward to try to stop Kaz in this attack.
192 supplies still to 154, and there is a High Templar on the bottom right side, so we want to keep an eye on him to see if he will be able to storm those SCVs during that. But again, workers lost is definitely favoring, or at least workers killed, definitely favoring the Terran player here. So really, HasuObs needs to engage a stim being used, but they are sitting directly in that storm, but Marauders are able to survive a direct storm even after using stim. So that's why they're able to cause so much damage there, and HasuObs realizes, well, my couple of Stalkers not going to be the best against that mass Marauder. And if you look at the army of Kaz, it is mostly all Marauders, and that is just decimating the Stalkers at this point. Production tab shows our Protoss player making nothing right now, while Empire.Kas is continuing to macro out all sorts of upgrades, even working on the Mobius reactor to make his go slightly better, and it seems like he's in good shape.
Yeah, Kaz is moving his command center over to where this HasuObs now third is up. And it's not going to work out too great for him there as the SCVs are like, I'll just mine this. Oh my god, Zealots! And now we got the command center trying to land on top of a Nexus. They cannot do it. It cannot be done. So, unfortunately for HasuObs, his area has now been discovered, and that might be the only place. There's just a few minerals there left that is natural. Everything's gone in the main, and this is going to get taken out real quickly here. I'm a little worried here for HasuObs.
Unless he can continue to do those storms. We just saw one on top of that. About half the army is in the red or yellow, and it does look like Empire.Kas may be able to take this out unless HasuObs can get some good storms right now, trying to use a little bit of desperation DTs to hopefully do a lot of damage to the army. Another storm doing a lot of damage. It just seems like it's not enough, as HasuObs is now forced to run back, just doing those storms with the high tempo that are getting taken out, which is doing quite a bit of damage. But really, after HasuObs has lost that expansion, he really only has his natural still mining, as well as the base down in the center right side, so he needs to hold on to this desperately. I don't know if he's going to have enough units, so he's whittling away the Terran army as much as he possibly can. Although all these Marauders are in the red, which means Storms will clean them up. Stalker's going to try and finish the job, and it will look like this will eventually get cleaned up. Units lost tab is showing Terran losing 29,000 resources, and there is a Stalker on the bottom right side trying to kill all these SCVs, but the High Templar, there we go, finally going to use that storm to clean these up. So finally doing some economic damage, but the action is continuing here, Wheat, now as the attack continues by Kaz.
Yeah, I mean, all those SCVs went down there by Kaz, and now it's just basically last stand by HasuObs here at this mining base. And right now, another stim goes down. There is a DT there who could do some damage if there's not a scan. He's working away on those units, but moving forward, all of the offensive ground units from HasuObs are gone. If he takes out this Nexus, it's just not going to be good here. All these probes are likely going to fall too as well. And although is that DT, no, the scan obviously got rid of the DT, and I'll move forward, make sure there's any more units. We do have a few more Stalkers. This third base from Kaz is basically worthless right now too. The gold is mined out, but he just took that base that HasuObs was mining at, and now we've got HasuObs just trying to make his way back into this base, do some sort of damage here.
This is one of those situations where if HasuObs was able to hold on to that expansion, albeit barely, he would have been in okay shape, because right now the mining of Empire.Kas is non-existent. I mean, yes, he is now just getting that expansion, but should HasuObs been able to hold on to that, he could have really punished his opponent, Kaz, because he has no money and really little income, but the supplies are more than double for our Terran players, so no matter how good you micro your 3 Stalkers, it's just not going to be enough at this stage of the game, I don't think. And so right now, Kaz, after losing all those units, it was worth it, though, because he did get that expansion. He also has a planetary fortress going up at that location, so it will be even more difficult to defend. There is a DT going to be loose over here, and there is only one armor upgrade, which means that the DT will still one-shot them with the +2 attack right now. So HasuObs needs to get an expansion up. I just don't know if it's going to be in time, though.
Oh no, and we're going to see Kaz going out to the start. Just as it finishes, it will go up, but it is immediately going to go down. He has so many medevacs to be able to heal up this army, and I just can't. Oh, there it is. Yes, GG, as HasuObs falls in another game to Empire.Kas, a back-and-forth battle where it looked like a few times HasuObs would have that advantage, but wow, Kaz taking it down. That's 2 games now as he does take this 2-game lead. Husky, very exciting game so far.
Absolutely. I mean, this game was 32 minutes. The last one, I believe, was like 37, 38, something like that, although those are in Blizzard minutes, but still pretty epic games regardless for those of us still living on Earth. And, I mean, of course, you're not going to feel good after losing those 2 games, but HasuObs always seems to be just one step behind his opponent. So if he can figure out how to punish the build, that Kaz has been going, then maybe he can definitely do a comeback here. He delayed the upgrades, which is very important. I mean, the +3 was just finishing with that one armor attack for the Terran player, when at this point last game he was working on basically +3 for his ships, as he had already upgraded everything else. But, I mean, HasuObs has been going for Colossus tech fairly early, and also mixing in High Templar as well. I'm wondering if maybe if he focused earlier on upgrades, rather than getting Colossus and High Templar, could it work out? Because what he's doing so far, Empire.Kas seems to have the number for, seems to have the answer for, and I mean, Empire.Kas was even able to save, I saw the replay open here for just a second, was able to save that expansion on the center right side, was just lifting it off and flying it away, would have been able to repair it. Empire.Kas' I think his multitasking is really what's winning him these games, just hands down.
I mean, some really, really phenomenal stuff, Husky. I do not disagree. You saw just how much he was always aware of what was going on, where the bases were up for his opponent, when he could attack them. So, really used it well. I said that maybe drops wouldn't play as much. And the moment that first drop was shut down, it was like Kaz was like, okay, well, maybe I won't be able to drop, but I'm still going to make you run around this map like crazy. And I think you said something there at the end of the game that if HasuObs would have been able to keep up that base and defend it, that could have been a different outcome, because he did do a great job killing all those SCVs at the third. There was not a whole lot left for Kaz, so he needed that game to end after all those SCVs died, of course, by taking that base back over from HasuObs. That put him in a great position there, so he just squeaks by that win. And I think that game was a little bit closer than it the may see. I mean, Kaz may be up 2-0, but that last game was very, very close. I think it could have swung either way. A few decisions being made differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, HasuObs, he is down 2-0, but in that last game, I mean, there was a situation where literally his opponent was not mining at all, and if he was able to keep mining himself, he would have just been able to reproduce those units, defend that location, and could have easily snuck out a win there. I mean, that just shows you how important every single unit is, and every single battle, like just when to back out. That's one thing that HasuObs might be having trouble with, is it's difficult to save the Colossus, and one thing we've seen a lot of players do as Protoss is they'll fight and fight, and then once all their zealots are dead, they'll just run away with the blink stalkers and replenish the much cheaper zealots, and then that allows you to use your gas for different things like High Templar and Colossus. But HasuObs is losing those vital units quite often, so it seems like if he's able to hang on just a little bit longer, then he can definitely start taking some games off Empire.Kas here. And really quick, I do just want to give a shout out to Glider. He is the one who drew all the photos. Yeah. I mean, you get a look at their sexy little faces here. Those are not actual photos in black and white. Those are hand-drawn, and you can check him out at theportraitart.com. I mean, what a total baller drawing. I think it's like 32 different people. I can barely draw a stick figure, and I guess we can just give shout-outs to ourselves really quick. I am Husky StarCraft on YouTube, and Wheat, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Well, you know what? You used to be able to find me at djwheat.tv, Husky, but I'm happy to say that 2 weeks ago we closed the doors on that and opened the doors on a new project we're working on. And it's called onemore.game.tv, the same 3 shows that you enjoyed from our last one, and then a new one, Inside the Game, which features Pain User, In Control, and Idro, where we kind of look at things from a racial perspective and chat about the in-depth and cool shit that is StarCraft 2, and it's a lot of fun. Also doing live on 3, Weapon of Choice tomorrow, which will happen before the TSL3 finals with Chill, and we'll be talking about all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, exciting stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter at DJ Wheat.
All right, so again, if you guys are just tuning in, you can make sure to follow. If you miss the first couple of games, or you have to leave to work or something, which I feel sorry for you if you do, but just call in sick. Tell your grandma that you can't visit her today, because you know what? The TSL is amazing, and there's only 2 days left of it, so hopefully you guys are able to catch every game. If you're not able to, just go to youtube.com/TeamLiquidNet, and you can see all the replays. They've been really good at churning those out as quickly as possible. I can tell you from experience that is not easy. Uploading HD videos takes a very long time, so definitely make sure to check that out. Go subscribe if you are not. Total Baller channel over there. I believe they have every single game uploaded from the TSL. So if you missed any of the action, then go follow them there. So I think that's enough plugging. Weed, I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention, but actually, I do want to mention something. Congratulations to Day 9 for graduating.
Yeah!
He has finally finished his 58 years of high school. Not high school, but I guess college. He was in school forever, I swear. So he graduated with, like, I guess the best degree in the world you can get. So huge congratulations to him. And not only is he a total baller, staying in school, you know, doing it the cool official way, but now that means there's going to be a little more free time for him to start casting StarCraft 2 during tournaments and all of that. So I think it's a very good day for esports. And yeah, so just big thanks to him. Make sure there's tons of threads out there, guys. Go post, tell him congrats, as getting a master's degree, that is not very easy. I had trouble getting my associates.
Yeah, big up to Day. I know that he's been working hard for that, and of course you can find him tomorrow in his first official StarCraft broadcast as a non-student anymore. And I'm sure, I mean, who knows what it's going to do to him? He's going to be wacky and crazy with happiness, and joy. So yeah, guys, I'm ready for game number 3. Though, thanks for joining us here for the 3rd and 4th place match. Remember, the winner does get a TSL4 auto berth and $3,000. Fourth place is going to get $1,500, and that is quite a nice payoff there for such an awesome tournament. You know, it's one thing just to be in it and participate and do this well, but when you get a really, really fine payoff, that's equally exciting. So game number 3 is going to be on GSL Crossfire SE. Husky, are you ready?
I am absolutely ready, guys. I hope you're back with your food. I'm once again going to try and wolf down this sandwich. 30 seconds flies by when you're trying to eat an entire meal between games. But definitely, guys, go get some refreshments. We are going to be right back after this extremely short commercial break, and it is going to be game number 3. Currently, Kaz is up 2-0. But again, the next map is Crossfire. Anything can happen. These games have been so close. I am going to stop talking, and we are going to go into these games right after this.